Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an AlphaNooner. We are very excited on Wednesday. Of course, we normally have Todd Harrison on, but we've got a special guest today joining us as well. Noah Hamman is back in the studio. Very excited to have him here. We're going to spend some time together talking through kind of what is going on in the current landscape for cannabis. As many of you might have seen already, definitely have seen some interesting news this week, as well as today. So we will talk through some of that. Good reminder, of course, if you're out there, you've got questions. We've seen some online, but if you have some more that you want to bring and ask us, you are always welcome to put them in the chat. So I would definitely recommend you take advantage of that and accept. Except Instagram comments. That is true. Exactly right. So yeah, put them on all the normal platforms, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, of course. And of course, just say hi if you want to. I think we always talk about that, but it's always great to see you. I see Skip in there. Great to see you.
Skip.
Good to see him. All right. Well, then I know it's weird because it's the first time having you on, Todd, since the new year, and I want to catch up on your new year, but I know we've got pressing stuff with cannabis. So hopefully,
you're on vacation.
Yeah. Hopefully, could you quickly sum it up? How was your little rest? Was it good? You feeling ready to head into 2025?
Yes, ready for the new year.
All right.
Were you able to smuggle any products overseas? Just
I don't do that. But
I don't do that either.
It was a nice respite, but right back into the fire here as we turn 2025 on, and we'll see. We were talking, I think last year, about how the blue sweep and the red sweep and the first move was the false move after the blue sweep. We'll see if the first move is the false move after the red sweep, but thus far, the mirror image seems to be tracking. So. But there's news. I appreciate Noah jumping on, and you're better equipped to discuss some of these dynamics. So I appreciate you taking the time because you know this stuff a lot better than I do.
Thank you. And we can fire away. Boy, I got a weird thing. I can hear my own voice coming in my ear, but that's okay. Well, so let's get into it. I hopefully am communicating to everyone. This is a fairly non-event. I don't see a big impact. I mean, it sucks when any firm has to close an ETF. I think at the end of the day, they're closing this just because it's not a profitable ETF. Yes, it has 70-ish million in it, but 65 of it is from MJ. They waive the fee on that, similar to what we do in MSOS to YOLO.
I think this is true. Wait, could we back us up a little bit? Because I'm sure most people who are joining know what's going on and have a sense of everything. And I feel like
important news, MJUS is closing.
Perfect. All right.
And people were worried that there would be $69 million worth of liquidation of cannabis stocks into the market. And so we believe, we don't know, we're not that company. Amplify is the name of the company. So they could be having totally different plans. But what I expect is going on, we saw about a month ago, CNBS changed its investment strategy and added a sub-advisor. The echo.
It gets you. I know it's like a speech jammer.
Added a sub-advisor that they normally work with on other products. So that moves CNBS from a global strategy to a U.S. focus, basically exactly matching MJUS's investment strategy. And again, with Tim Seymour still staying on as PM in the regulatory documents, but having a new underlying sub-advisors who are now probably likely doing the heavy lifting of moving stuff around and settlement and things like that. So that change happened about a month ago. And we saw when that was filed, just sort of kept an eye on it. With today's news, it starts to make more sense, is that MJUS, as I was just saying a second ago, looks like it has 69 million in it, but 65 million is from the MJ ETF. So that means only 4 million are shareholders, sort of direct shareholder related assets. Mm-hmm. So when you think about it being a liquidation, at most, again, my view, they're going to need to sell 4 million worth of those shareholders, but I'll tell you why I think it's not even that. So odds are MJ is going to keep its U.S. exposure, right? It's a global strategy, so they're going to do it one way or another. They're going to probably buy the stocks directly via swaps, mm-hmm. or do what they've been doing. But instead of invest in MJUS, they'll invest in CNBS, which now has the same exact investment strategy as MJUS. So that'll be easy for them. They can sell out of one on today. Let's say, I don't know, it won't happen today, but they could sell it today. They can buy into CNBS today And between those two funds, they can transfer the swap positions. Very easy, no impact, all at market close. Should be relatively straightforward. I believe that's what they'll do, because I don't believe they would have spent the time or the money to switch CNBS's investment objective if that wasn't the intention. So that's why I think that's what'll happen. So then it just turns me to what happens to the 4 million. So they've got a little over 20 days before the last trading date and the liquidation day to find 4 million of liquidity. As we've looked closer at MJUS, I was seeing one of the Twitter accounts. I don't want to pronounce the name wrong.
One of the Twitter, I don't want to pronounce it wrong either. You tag them.
I tag them.
You tag them.
Someone who tracks the holdings and the cash in MJUS. And as of the beginning of this year, they noted that MJUS had excess cash. So I think everybody knows we have a little bit of negative cash. MJUS had positive cash of 1.2 million. So they've already got some cash to offset that 4 million liquidation need. With the news coming out today, we've closed some ETFs before. Shareholders would get that notification probably electronically from their brokerage account, Schwab, Fidelity, and it'll say, hey, this fund's closing. And they'll say you have two choices. Go sell your shares in the open market or wait until the liquidation day and you'll get your money at whatever the NAV is that day, which could change a lot in the next 20 days.
Yep.
But it doesn't charge you commission. You don't have to worry about spreads. You get NAV and it'll show up in your account probably a week later. But some people will probably sell. So if they've got 4 million to sell, they've already got 1.2 million as of the beginning of the year, which they could have a higher cash balance now. I haven't checked.
Yeah.
And some shareholders are going to sell. They maybe have 2 million that they need to find some liquidity for over the next 20 days. Super easy. As we looked even closer, I just posted this. As you lift the covers of MJUS's holdings, you'll notice things like, well, they hold a high APR. So keeping in mind MJ is holding some of MJUS, they've got double exposure to IPR, right? We don't do that in the way we approach it. But as we looked at holdings in MJUS like IIPR that are listed, that don't need swaps, they have a little over 6 million. I think MAPS, IIPR, a couple of other positions. So if they need to source easy liquidity, they can easily find it there. So they just can sell 2 million of that 6. They're covered, non-event. Now, will they do it that way? I don't know. But practically speaking, all the things that we're seeing and sort of reading the tea leaves, that's it.
Yeah. An easy way that makes sense, I think, ultimately is the path that most companies would choose. And again, like you're saying, if they've laid the groundwork, if they've already made a change.
I think this is far about the business of ETF management. MJUS, because they've been waiving the fees, never's had more than 5, 10, 15 million bucks. It's been sitting around this 2, 3, 4, 5 million range for a year plus. They've been writing probably in the range of around $15,000 a month, checks a month to that fund to offset the expenses. Even looking at CNBS, when it was at 25 or 35, Tim was probably break even to maybe a little bit positive revenue. At 12 million today, he's probably writing checks in the 5-ish plus range a month. So this can fix a lot of those things for them. It will depend on whether or not they waive the fees in CNBS from MJ, but I bet they will. But it just fixes some things financially for Amplify, who bought a bunch of ETFs from ETF MG. Now it's about time to clean those books up. But I think in the cannabis space, it's a net nothing. For them as a business, people, it sucks when you put your time and effort and money into launch a product and you want it to be successful. So that's a bummer for them, but it's the natural ebb and flow of this industry.
True. I will say they're probably less invested emotionally though as well, just because having ported them in ultimately. So, but yeah, normal course of business, normal stuff. Todd, is there anything that you've been seeing online? Because I've looked online in terms of reactions to news, and I've seen kind of a variety of stuff, but I don't know if I'm following. I'm seeing more like neutral and even sometimes positive stuff. Although, of course, there's some people who are.
Are we talking specific to this?
Yeah, specific to this change.
You know what? I got lit up like a switchboard this morning. People asking how they're going to move $70 million of exposure when I think the total notional in the ETF the last couple of days was 12 to 15 million. On the aggregate, with really nothing trading on the underlying. So I do think that the difference between 70 million and 2.5 million is a pretty the ready, fire, aim attitude in the market, the charts, the fundamentals, the uncertainty around what's the new administration, the perceived dead zone, the questions regarding rescheduling. We could talk about all of this stuff, but all of that, sort of adds up to more uncertainty after 40 years of nothing done by, the Democrats or Schumer anyway. It's just sort of par for the course of what am I doing here when there's so much, other things that are going on.
Sure.
Again, too early to tell if the red sweep and blue sweep will be the mirror image. If you recall, as I do, the MSO gang that kind of put that top in on February 10th of 2020, 2020, right? For 2021, 2021. It's we'll see if the mirror image is square or not, but there's a lot we still need to learn about sort of the timing of the forward catalyst, and a lot to unpack regarding the individual names, where they are, where the growth is going to come from, and how we're going to reconcile the farm bill, the hemp bill, and all that jazz.
I think that's true. I will say though, I feel like just in terms of how normal people consume news, and especially I think in the cannabis space, which has been starved for news, or will kind of get a big piece of news and you're kind of reading the headline and kind of having a reaction to that before kind of taking time to digest it. I think not surprised to see a lot of people covering it or kind of having, I don't know, a reaction at the start and then kind of taking time to digest it. And
I mean, it doesn't help. There's a handful of fairly well followed cannabis investing accounts that are just fanning the flames a little bit. If you're a trader, volatility is your friend and you're enjoying a day like today. So I think that's the tricky part, is people also have to be careful where they're getting their insight from online. Yeah.
And some, I think, longer term investors potentially are also enjoying. I'm pointing at you specifically. I know you're doing a tiny little more toe in, which is exciting.
I'm going to do some day trades because I think this is overreacted. So, but don't do what I do. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, that's fair. But I, respect the putting your money where your mouth is. Also, hilarious comment I'm seeing coming in.
I just read it.
Hi, Todd. Welcome back in the saddle. Noah, I don't know you, but quick question. Why do you look so young in your profile picture on Twitter? Oh.
So a funny but sad story. First of all, that picture is about 20 years old, a lot more hair, a lot more tan, probably 40 or 50 pounds less. But it actually taken at a time where I was sort of making a change in my early entrepreneurial career path. And it was a day right before I was served some papers.
Oh no!
So you're actually seeing at that picture, I'm almost my lowest point in my entrepreneurial path. And thankfully, as rocky as things have been to get to where we are today, it's just a funny picture that I look so damn good in compared to what I look like today. I just kills me to change it. But hopefully you've noticed that, I don't know if it's McKinsey or Marguerite, but they keep torturing me with these posts of my fat face on these posts about my appearances. I'm like, what's going on?
Listen, maybe it's a way to motivate you to get a headshot. We can get another one done eventually. We'll be at a conference or two. They normally have a little booth to get them done.
So
but
it's a great question.
Yes.
I'm refusing to change it, but at some point McKinsey will probably force me to change it.
I think that's a good one. Or do like a pet, or I think people have some fun ones that they do, or like holiday themed ones. Whatever. I think it's good. But yes, I think overall investing generally, obviously in cannabis, it keeps you on your toes. We always joke about it, never being boring. And I think that's true, but it has its tough moments, but it has its bright moments. And I think it's important to keep those in check ultimately.
It might be worth pointing out too, and you probably haven't a chance to talk with Todd about this because he's been on vacation, but haven't we seen at least 2 offerings out there where companies have acquired some cash and issued some shares? There's money out there that wants to come to the space, right price, right time. So again, 2 million, 4 million, I don't think is a big challenge over the course of 20 days. I think, there's still money that wants to find its way in, trying to figure out the right way and the right approach and the right value. What does that mean that's going to happen in the future? I have no idea. And
we saw to that end, we did see, I think it was Weed Maps, right? The founders are trying to buy back the company. We did see a smaller company do that. We saw Ascend initiate a stock buyback. And obviously, I think the big news was the Vireo Chicago Atlantic sort of roll up of a number of different assets and their ability to issue shares above market helps win.
And MJUS has, I think, 1.5 million in maps. They can sell those to the founders today. Boom. Yeah. Most of the money you need is gone. Like,
how come? So my question, I guess, Noah, to you is, your confidence level that this is sort of a non-event, as you said, and then would you expect to see, sometimes on the end of the day we see these, big prints, usually broker to broker. So you would probably expect to see that, in 2 weeks' time or towards the end of this process.
Yeah, they probably have any amount of time to get it done before now and then. And yes, that's what you would look for. You'd see those big prints and they're probably moving it from one side to the other and doing it at the close, which is the most fair. We do that when we've had to make some adjustments. So yeah, you'll notice those things for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I wish you could see, I know CMBS is, it seems like, where things are headed, but it would be wild, a super shock.
You want my next crazy prediction?
MSOS. What?
So with the addition of the sub-advisor, I do wonder if that's slightly changed Tim's role in the portfolio side of things. If I'm a betting man, and I am, I would bet that CNBS flips to the MJUS ticker in like 6 to 12 months.
Who keeps it?
You heard it first here. Heard it first here, everybody.
Why?
It's a better, more memorable ticker. I think it's in line with the MJUS. It solves the problem of getting rid of a small money-losing ETF. You can still hang on to the branding. Total guess.
Don't you also have, though, the hang up of having the closure like relatively recently? If people are looking up the ETF, they're seeing the closure of it.
I think for a firm that went from a Latin American REIT to cannabis, they don't care.
Okay, fair enough. Todd, place your bet. What are you thinking? Which should they stick with?
I defer to Noah on this. I put a call into Tim this morning, or a text anyway, and didn't hear back. So I got nothing to add. But I like Noah's take. I don't know if it matters really. I mean, of course it matters from a supply demand standpoint, but in terms of perception, until we actually see or until prices demonstrate, that the volumes just weren't there to sort of facilitate this, right? But we'll see. I mean, we're watching volumes as we speak. We're watching price levels, and this is kind of, for better or for worse, a bit of a dead zone, or at least a perceived dead zone in terms of news. We're 12 days ahead of the inauguration. Still need to hear a DEA head, right? But and then we have Pam Bondi and her confirmation, and she'll certainly be asked about cannabis, and I think that'll be instructive. But right now, this is a leap of faith and a matter of trust in in the operators that are going to find their way to the other side, and depending on who you ask, you're going to get different answers on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Well, I do want to touch on kind of rescheduling as that's coming up. I will say, again, as a reminder, if anyone has any questions kind of on the recent news, we can still answer those, but just kind of putting a cap on that there. But kind of speaking to the rescheduling, I know we're, 13 days out? It's the 21st. So relatively soon. I know there's been also some news around that with, Village Farm. And, what's your thought on kind of the approach of trying to remove the DEA? Is it sort of noise? Is it anything?
There's certainly there, right? I mean, the Village team is as good as it gets in terms of government affairs, and they've been doing this for a long time. And, not just Mike, but Ann and John Harlow and, Sam and their whole team. And then you got Sugar Shane Pennington, who's nobody's fool. He's out there sort of calling these shots. And I think, they caught the DEA with their hand in the cookie jar once. And that was dismissed. And then they, have just found new evidence, widespread evidence per the parties. And the judge this morning said that they demanded an answer by next week. I don't know how that's going to play. I don't know how or if that delays the processes, but I am pretty excited about the optics as we head into a new administration that is hell-bent on, cutting out the bureaucracy and really snuffing out the deep state, right? I was talking to somebody yesterday after the Village lawsuit or filing was after it was filed, and it was like, there's really no other example in American history of the deep state that's more pervasive than how they've treated cannabis over the life cycle, and the CSA, and now with the DEA and what they're doing. So, you have Elon and Vivek, both who are, friends of the plant. RFK is going to be a big confirmation. I think he could potentially usher in a renaissance of sorts for plant-based medicine, and not just cannabis, but really the 3.0 and that biotech pathway and psilocybin and all of it, right? I think it would be very good for plant-based medicine to have him in that role, kind of looking at this through, those sort of blinders. And I think Bondi's on side as well. I mean, we've been talking to the transition team, and we continue to have those conversations, hoping to have some further insight by the next time we speak regarding sort of where things are or where things are going. But it wouldn't hurt to have the big man come out and affirm his intentions. Certainly that's, we have no reason to doubt him. The story, he worked with Weldon in his first administration. He passed the First Step Act when nobody was looking to change criminal justice reform. He's done more for expungements and pardons than Biden has ever done. And he's already, said that he's going to do, follow through on rescheduling and banking. And we know he likes U.S. companies, to be U.S. companies and not have to go outside our borders, especially when it comes to money and banking. When is that communicated? How is that communicated? Is obviously, a big variable here, right? This is not an industry after 4 years of being let down by politics, 6 years actually, but the last 4 in particular. There's not a lot of patience. There's not a lot of benefit of the doubt going on. We see the fundamentals. I think it was ATB came out this morning and said, year-over-year growth is down. Some of that's being bogarted by the hemp industry. Other is the price compression, because unit volumes continue to go up, price compression. So, there's a lot of things to unpack right now. And in the absence of any sort of good news or a line of sight on when that good news is, patience continues to thin. And we're seeing that in the volumes, and we're seeing that in the price action.
I think hunger for news and information, and like you're saying, like we were talking before, some of the confirmations were being made. I think that was also a big element of people just wanting information, wanting a sense of that uncertainty to be at least a little bit more contained. So that makes sense. That does remind me, though, just speaking of the DEA and everything and sort of those appointments and the political side of things, I know we had seen Chad Chronister get put up potentially to be, head the DEA, but that had kind of gotten, he'd I guess, retracted his, nomination. I know it's a very, very short timeline. Do you see that being, taken a second stab at? What's your sort of sense of?
I asked the question yesterday. We were talking to some folks, and there wasn't any insider clarity. I know that we're waiting for other confirmations and confirmation hearings and other appointments. But that's all going to land over the course of the next month or so, which is sort of what I get back to. We need to see who's sitting where in certain regards. Obviously, Matt Gaetz would have been a friend to the plant, but sort of swarmy a little bit in the in that pick, depending on whether you're a dad girl or not, I guess. But Bondi, I think, is despite her backing her boss in Florida, all indications from the conversations we've had is that she gets it. She is supportive of rescheduling and banking, for that matter, from what we've heard. But obviously, don't take my word for it. We need to see, some signals from the administration, and then, more importantly, some action from the administration. But we're going to find out, who's got the mots. I mean, there's some companies out there that need this more than others. Obviously, companies like Green Thumb are in better position than others. Glass House is probably another. I know Ron Rogue is a big, a name among, some investors who have done well in the space. And, C21, another name that, we're involved with, but, is not getting the credit for what is they going to grow. I think, I don't want to cuff it, but they're growing. They're adding new stores, and they again, paid off 35 million or 30 plus million through free cash flow and haven't done a raise since. So, there's some good companies out there, and there's some companies that we think maybe got, there was an overreaction, like, we talked about this last time. TerraSend and Verano have been two of the names that have gotten really decimated. They own all of their own real estate, right? So they're not in the same position as like a PharmaCann right now that's dealing with the IIPR, and that's, we should talk about that and how that reconciles, because I think a lot of people are watching that to see if the credit side is going to share some of the pain with the equity holders and how that reconciles, and if there's, that's going to be an interesting one. But to my point, TerraSend's not in Florida. TerraSend is not particularly, wide on their footprint. TerraSend has, is particularly leveraged to, to Pennsylvania, which, depending on who you listen to, could be, introduced as early as this quarter, and may be in play by the end of the year, depending, again, if you believe, what people are saying. So right now, nobody's getting any benefit of any doubts, right? I mean, things are getting just sold off, and I think the fact that, a lot of people were maybe playing or hoping for a tax bounce into January, and for good reason, because things got decimated into the end of the year. They see news this morning and they say, holy shit, who's going to buy, I don't know what the number is, but who's going to buy, 1.6 million shares of Green Thumb and 5.9 million shares of Curaleaf and 1.5 million shares of Trueleaf. And, that's sort of the uncle point for a lot of people this morning, and who aren't listening to Noah saying, no, that's not exactly what we think is happening. We think that this is more of a transition to another symbol, and there's some residual stuff that might get sold, but that's not the, it's not the, oh my God, this is it, Harry Carey moment. So again, different strokes for different folks. We just need, any kind of affirmation from the incoming administration would be helpful. I think it'll come up during Bondi's confirmation, and certainly we know Operation Choke Point is a strategic imperative, and that is already that's Section 10 of safe banking. So we'll see what happens. We'll see the timing, but if from here to there, we're just going to have to navigate.
Todd, the choke point thing is the one piece I think we could see early. I mean, what I feel like I'm reading is they've got some big bill they're working on that has all sorts of stuff in it. And the idea is that control the House, control the Senate, they get it passed. And while I don't expect to see anything cannabis related, if that even is true and will happen, but I would certainly expect to see something about choke point banking, maybe even not specifically crypto, but something that in a sense could help both crypto and cannabis. So my wild speculation, but one way or another, my view is that we'll see change in the next year-ish, plus or minus.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, safe banking doesn't have the word cannabis in it, right? Like safe banking is about safe banking, and Operation Choke Point has been why the Republicans have even entertained this. So the other part that we can speculate on or not is, if and when we do see legislation come through, it's probably going to be a lot more business friendly than it would have been in the last Congress.
Yep, that's true. All right. Well, other current events and news, the one thing that is a small thing, but wanted to get both your quick takes on. I know Meta is sort of going towards that free speech element and trying to roll back how they're controlling stuff. Do you think we get to see on social media better ads, ability to advertise cannabis and not have your account shut down? Again, it's not as important as having your bank account shut down, but do you think we see, I don't know, just a little ability to advertise or a little ability to get out a message on social if things keep trending in the way that they're trending?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think unless Todd reaches out to Mark Zuckerberg and challenges them into a UFC style fight, it's the only way to get it done. But what I will say, in terms of where we advertise, we have the hardest time with Google search ads. We get many of them disapproved for recreational drug use. Twitter's great. LinkedIn's been great, actually. It's actually been Google that's been the problem.
Okay. Not surprising. I feel like, again, Twitter, or X, I guess, not surprised that it's been the most welcoming in general. But I think, again, a lot of good there, a lot of good community, all that stuff. Okay. All right. Well, I don't see any questions related to the current news. So I think hopefully
No,
seems
really
like
easy.
all covered, which
And
is
we have a lot of people tuned in,
which is
just
great.
quiet.
That's true. Yeah, a lot of people on X as well as YouTube, which is awesome. Great to see.
So, yeah, don't
Thanks for joining.
hesitate as you hear this information, digest it, tag any one of the three of us, and we'll alert each other. But we're happy to answer questions online. But yeah, I'm still sticking with the none of it.
Open and communicative. All right, sounds good. Todd, do you have final thoughts?
No, I just think I appreciate you guys, especially you, Noah, for, I know you get a lot of arrows and incoming shrapnel your way, but I think it says a lot that you're out there and you're offering this take, which is a very variant view right now. And I know it's not fact, but the fact that you're out there and you're offering your insight, I think is valuable, and it's not something that you see from a lot of ETF providers. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, first of all, and thank you for all the support and help. I appreciate it. And I want to take this moment to let everyone know too, also don't be so hard on either Tim or the Amplify group. Remember, this is a publicly listed security. They can't just come out and say, hey, here's all the things we're going to do. Everyone calm down. They've got public disclosure obligations. It doesn't surprise me that they've just stuck to the press release and then the regulatory filing. And I'm sure, hopefully, when they can, they'll speak. But it's hard to know when and what you can say. So you're going to err on the side of caution and not saying much and letting the publicly filed documents speak for it. So don't be too hard on them, internet people that are watching. I'm sure they're doing the best that they can to get through this. And they're probably not communicating as much as we might like them to, but they're trying to balance those obligations as well. It's easy for us to just kind of stand on the sidelines and guess. It's not our product and we don't have the same impact. But be gentle with them as well. They're doing their best to try to get through it, I'm sure.
Informative and positive. How can you beat that? That's amazing. All right, fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it as well. Good reminder, tomorrow is a market holiday, which is surprising.
Jesus.
Or not surprising, but it
Are
seems
you
up on
still
you.
working or not?
I'll be doing
what's our
something.
company policy?
Well, Jimmy Carter, big proponent in some parts of cannabis. So maybe,
it's fine.
celebrate, light one up, pour one out, kind of the same thing.
All right.
But it'll be good. So just as a good reminder, no AlphaNooner tomorrow, but we will be rejoining on Friday. So that'll be good. Whoa. All right, perfect. Thanks everyone so much. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Adios.
Thank you, guys.
Before investing, carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses found in the prospectus, available at AdvisorShares.com.